it's Drybear, and we need to talk about the drama going on right now with Stalker 2, set to release next week. Now, Stalker 2 is the final release of a game that has been long awaited. Obviously, Stalker 1 and the trilogy came out between 2007 and 2010 and has gained a cult following since then, which I am a part of. I think the Stalker games are incredibly special, and I'm very much excited about Stalker 2 coming out next week. However, there's been a lot of discussions right now on the forums and on Reddit and other platforms about whether or not Stalker 2 is going to be ready for release once it finally comes out. Which all started last week when we got the minimum specs for Stalker 2. So this one was kind of a shock for a lot of people because the minimum specs are higher than what you would expect between low, medium, high, and epic, at least for PC. I'm sure on Xbox is going to be something that plays pretty well, but on PC, the range of hardware is much wider, and so people are wondering if they're going to be able to run Stalker based on this. You can see even on the low setting for 1080p 30 FPS, you need an i7 700K minimum, a 1060 GeForce minimum, 16 gigs of RAM, and an SSD with a lot of storage. The game is actually quite large and has a ton of content in it that you need to be able to explore, which has sparked a massive discussion and is probably the biggest, most discussed topic in the Stalker area right now, which is, should I get a new GPU for this? Am I going to be able to run it? Is this going to work on my machine? Which also led to a ton of memes of people talking about how they're going to cool their setup down while they try to play Stalker 2, which led to a crazy big uptick in drama, as well as there were people on the forums that were raising concerns. As we saw on the forums, on the Steam community as well, people were saying, wait a minute, these min specs aren't super great. They're kind of tough for some people to build up, but there's also a big question of whether or not these min specs were targeted and tested while using upscaling, which means they have either like TSR or like DLSS to help improve performance. Were these on when they ran the min specs? With this user even saying that the requirements listed were only achieved using upscaling, which means that if you don't use upscaling, either you're unable to, or you don't actually have an option for upscaling, or you choose not to because you don't like it, you actually will not be able to reach those min specs performance, which means you'll be less than 60 FPS, potentially even less than 30 FPS if you don't have it. So he put out this post, which was, the top half is him talking about the response from the developer and then how it's not going to work, and the bottom half is that, you know, kind of slandering and saying that cancel your pre-orders, don't allow companies to do this, it's not going to run properly, which resulted in this guy getting banned from the Steam forums by one of their moderators. You have been banned from Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl Hub by a forum moderator for your post in Stalker 2, and it says at the bottom, spreading fake info about the company, which started a whole other tinfoil hat conversation around them just trying to hush whistleblowers and keep people in the dark about their game. And this could even be another situation where we had with like Cyberpunk 2077, where no one knew it was coming until it finally came out as a buggy mess. And to add even more fuel to this, there haven't been any releases of gameplay that has been official, right? Most of the time there hasn't been like full playthroughs or early leaks. The embargoes have not lifted for the game, which means that the journalists and the early access folks that have gotten review copies of the game haven't been able to talk about it just yet. So a lot of people are worried that this is going to be another Cyberpunk 2077, where everything looks great in the trailers, everything that we've been shown has been great. Everyone that's got access to the game early can only show B-roll they've been given, and we've only been able to see a limited part of the game, plus this fiasco with the minimum requirements, which prompted a reply from the devs in multiple ways. So today, let's talk about some of the replies they've given and where they sit on this. Responding directly to the accusation that they were intentionally banning any dissension on the forums, saying that the game was unprepared or unready for release. They came out and straight up said, hello, guys, we are so sorry about that situation. Our new moderator provided this ban. So the person that was saying that the game was not ready, that it's only showing upscaling numbers for the performance results, you're not going to be able to reach these without upscaling. They responded with, our new moderator provided this ban. He made a mistake with this topic. They didn't intend for this person to be banned. Before the release, we recruited an additional team of moderators to help us, but this does not remove responsibility. We have removed the ban. So they unbanned that person on the forums, and they're allowing the discourse to come through unlimited, which has turned into complete chaos. Literally right next to each other are two posts, one that says do not pre-order and one that says do pre-order. And now you've developed kind of like in Stalker lore, actually, two separate factions that are either diehard Stalker fans that are going to get the game no matter what, and people that are kind of understandably hesitant about new games, even in 2024, where a lot of new games come out, they're underperforming, they don't seem ready for release, and they aren't ready to be played. And both those camps are getting more and more heated and yelling at each other on whether or not you should pre-order or should not. And honestly, I'm in the group where I've been waiting for a Stalker 2 release for such a long time. I've been following the studio and all the hardships they've gone through, with the war in Ukraine, as well as everything that's happened to them, funding and availability and then people that are on staff and things like that. It is mostly the original team from the Stalker series, and there are some new bloods in there as well. And I think the game overall is set to be one of the best games of this year that you want to keep your eye on. But still, there's a lot of question on whether it's going to be stable and available. And also, if there's if the embargo is still locked down from reviewers and from journalists, how are we supposed to know whether or not this game is going to work properly on release? Now, personally, for me, I think that there is an interesting argument to be had around the availability of early access, because when you give someone early access, as someone who has been a user and a player in the gaming industry, as well as a game developer on multiple titles, giving early access to reviewers, you don't really know if they're going to be able to have a honest and fair take on the game. Sometimes people just have an agenda and they want to show your game in the wrong light. Sometimes people they don't play the game well, or they don't understand the game. They don't understand what it's for. They don't even like the game before they even play it. Or maybe they have something wrong with their machine. They didn't update their drivers, and then they spread some really bad slander around the game itself. So there's definitely two sides of that argument on whether we need pure open discussion around it, like freedom of speech, being able to say, hey, this is where the game is now, this is my footage, my experience, and then having multiple experiences to look across. When we have a limited number of those, it does feel like we're kind of up in limbo, but the devs have reiterated that they feel confident in the game, and what we've seen so far has been pretty good. Now, I think in general, the gaming industry, most players have been looking at this overall and really they've lost trust for developers releasing games and being able to have their games stable and functional on release. There are so many games in the last 5 years that have just come out as completely unplayable messes. Wild Hearts, Wulong, Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the biggest ones, of course. So we're wondering now if it's going to be there. Now, if you're definitely in or out of that camp, you probably want to just hold back on your pre-order. But if this game is well delivered on launch on Wednesday, 5 days from now, I think it's definitely one of the more interesting and more engaging games of the year. There's a lot of cool things to look at it inside the game, and it's a continuation of a very interesting series, universe, and atmosphere that a lot of people love. And whether you're a hardcore Stalker / Zone related game fan, or you're someone just now getting into the series, I think there's plenty of it to enjoy here. The game has a large download side, which means there's tons of content, a massive map, lots to explore, and a lot of fun to be had. But let me know what you think about the discussions around requirements, the question about performance, and whether it's going to work on release, and where you sit with Stalker 2 down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.